we're going to listen to Fear and Fascination by the wonderful Abraham Joffe. A lot of you may know him from his video business that he has. A lot of you might know him, as I do, through the wedding industry. He's not only a master of his craft, but he's actually a really nice guy too. So I say that hand on my heart, you're a nice, yeah, money later. So we're going to listen to Abraham first. We're then going to break, and there will be some light refreshments during our break. Then we're going to come back for question and answers. So if you do have any questions, try and hold on to them until the second half. If any latecomers, there's a few seats over here, and I think there's some extra seats that we're getting as well. I think I've covered it all. So without further ado, may I introduce Mr. Abraham Joffe.
Thank you, Kylie. I'll project my voice tonight, so hopefully you can all hear me. The acoustics in here are pretty good, so we'll see how we go. Thanks for all coming tonight. Really nice to see a good turnout. And I guess I just wanted to start just by knowing who here is a photographer, or call themselves a photographer as their first profession. Some people do both, but who are the photographers in the room? Mostly. And who comes from the cine video background? We're outnumbered, aren't we? Well, that's good. It's good. We can still call it a mix, I guess, 4 to 100 or whatever it is. Look, my presentation tonight's a bit of a mix of different things. I'm going to talk about. Well, first of all, I should just thank the AIPP for putting this on. Thank you, Peter, and I think it's great. I'm very excited to help in a small way, help in this development of the video side of the AIPP. Controversial as it may be to some, I think it's an interesting and progressive move to at least be thinking about this, because we're all image makers. We are, really. We share so many attributes. So I think tonight's actually really could be a perfect little starting point, because it's really talking about this fusion experiment that we did. So yeah, tonight I'm going to we'll talk about the 1DC, well, really the motion expressions, we called it, project that we did with the 1DC. And I'll also talk about the project as an innovative, I guess from a business point of view for us, as a case study for doing something a bit out of the box. I think it's been huge, great things that have come from a business point of view for us. So I'm just going to talk about how you can look at innovative ideas. This is just one innovative sort of experiment, how you can look at that for your own business and hopefully benefit like we have in just doing things out of the box. We spend so much of our life just doing what we have to do, don't we? Just get this album done or get this video edited, but actually stopping and thinking about the big picture ideas and concepts. So I'll talk a bit about that. And at the end, as Kylie mentioned, we're going to have the panel, and I think tonight should just be a catalyst for discussion. The project that we undertook, we'll obviously look at that and look at how we pulled the stills, and we'll look at the workflow. But I think it should just be a catalyst of thinking about the future and where is this all going. That's what I find very exciting. So talking to Ryan earlier about how the first digital cameras, what was the name of the first one? One of the first, the Kodak. That was a 1 megapixel, 1.2 megapixel, yeah, $12,000 camera, and look at where digital's come, and just look at that. It was interesting. I mean, I remember when I started first shooting weddings, 99. Well, everyone was on film when I was shooting in 99, 2000, and then digital started to come through, and we all know where it is now. So, you know, I think it's just interesting to look back on history, and you could probably see comparisons to this as well. And the title tonight, Fear and Fascination, definitely should be Fascination. I think the fear was just a good little pull. And one thing I'll say right up front is that I don't think this is the death knell to traditional photography. I think it's a tool, a new aspect to get an image. It's an exciting new way of getting an image, and I think something we're going to see more of. But photography takes so many forms. There's so many different ways photographs are taken. So I think it's a good way to look at it. It's just another way to get to an image. So, okay. I'll just start off, just for anyone who, a little bit of background on myself. Won't spend too much time on this, but I've always been an animal lover, wildlife and lover, and had an amazing upbringing, travelled around Australia with Mum and Dad for 3 years when I was growing up. Mum's a teacher and we just lived on the road, lived in a little caravan with 3 brothers and sisters, and just had an amazing worldly childhood travelling around and travelled through China and Indonesia as well, and got to, I guess that was where my love of nature came from. And a fellow on the left there, Malcolm Douglas, the late Malcolm Douglas, some of you might know, he's was a real pioneer, started shooting films through the top end. His first film in 1960, Across the Top, was pretty groundbreaking. Took a 16mm camera across the top of Australia and was filming tribes, Aboriginal tribes that were truly in 1960 living where they were for thousands of years. And met him and actually luckily got to work with him about 6 years later after sending in lots of little videotapes to him over the course of my teenage years, asking him, when can I work for you, when can I work for you? Finally he sort of gave in and I did a few months with him up in the Kimberleys. And David Ireland, another fellow on the right, had 4 years shooting with him, wildlife work, video, a series that was on Channel 9 and Discovery on like a Steve Irwin type production, a lot of animal encounters, diving, that sort of thing, the diving shot. So that's my real passion. I mean, I guess number one passion would be the nature stuff. I love wildlife. And of course, weddings pay the bills. And I really enjoy them, of course. Untitled Filmworks is our company in Sydney, and we shoot about 90 to 100 weddings a year. This is our studio in North Sydney, and it's been fantastic just learning, like a lot of us, I guess, have just learnt to become a business owner. Didn't really do any formal training. A lot of us just are photographers first or cinematographers first, and then you just got to learn the ways of running a business and a lot of trial and error. And so, yeah, that's a bit about me in a nutshell. Out of interest, who has seen the clip, the motion expressions clip? Most people here? A few people? What I'll do, I just want to take you through 2 case studies. They're not specifically related to what we're here for tonight, but I just want to use them as an example of other people I really look up to, and this list could have been huge tonight, but I've just picked 2 people, and as a videographer, I'm looking outside. It's good to look outside your field, I think, to get inspiration. I get so much inspiration for great photography. I think it's just a brilliant way, composition, things of looking at the world, different ways of looking at the world. And just want to use these 2 case studies. The first one is, a lot of people might know, a lot of people might have seen Vincent at the event this year. I think he was absolutely amazing, his talk. An icon, someone I look up to hugely. And his film, for those of you who don't know it, Vincent Laforet is a world-renowned photographer in his own right before his life changed about 4 years ago, and he got his hands on a 5D Mark II. It was a pre-release camera, I believe, and he had it for a couple of days, literally 2 or 3 days. And I don't know the exact history of it, but correct me if I'm wrong, the video feature was sort of added as a request from journalists to be able to shoot. There was more and more requests to get video in the field. The photographers they added the video feature in camera, and of course, we all know what happened to the DSLR revolution since the 5D came about. And Vincent shot this film, went out, spent a lot of his own money. I think he mentioned in his talk, the chopper cost him $5,000 alone, I think. Went out and shot like a 2-minute short with the camera, and it was just mind-blowing. The response was massive. So it was the world's first 1080p film shot with a Mark II. He had it for such a short amount of time, did something a bit different with the camera, and was excited about this new feature, and took it. The clip had 2 million views in a week. Imagine the impact that had. And I remember seeing it too. I think I was in Vegas. I went to NAB around that year. It was April '09, and just when the clip had sort of hit the internet. And it was funny, the NAB that year. NAB, for those of you who don't know, is the massive broadcasting event in Vegas every year in April. It's on in a few weeks. So the WPPI have just had their photography event. NAB is sort of the video equivalent. And it was funny, the first year, the clip had just come out. You saw a few 5Ds running around the place. The next year, everyone had one. Like, it was just like every single person. And then all the rigs and all the, you know, follow focus systems and viewfinders and all these attachments to make the camera work. So it was sort of a feature that wasn't, the camera really wasn't designed, or they didn't expect it to go as crazy as it did, and then people took this new feature and ran with it, and it was sort of changed, you know, you could call it a revolution for sure. And yeah, for Vincent personally, his career just took off even more, and he's, you know, doing some amazing work, and it's just really launched his career personally. So amazing. And you know, have you all had those moments when you're on a plane or you've got some time to yourself and you sit down and you just really think about your business or your photography with a clear space without internet, Facebook, phones ringing every 5 minutes? And I just loved plane time, where you just get to sit with a blank sheet of paper or an iPad now and just think about ideas. I think it's just so important to step outside your day-to-day running of the business. And every time we've done little projects that have, okay, this was a bigger one that we did, but we've done other little projects that have just, we've taken the time out to experiment, to try something new. It's amazing what can come from it. So I think tonight too should hopefully be a little bit of inspiration to look at how you can do some new things yourself. Personally, picking up the 5D Mark II, and I was really, I think going to Vegas that year, and that's why conferences and these things are so good, is that it can just be a catalyst for something, some change in your thinking. Going to Vegas and seeing that Mark II early, I came back and we started shooting weddings. I was blown away. So a couple of guys had them. Back then you couldn't manually control the video very much at all. It was very, very limited until they did firmware upgrades. We came back and started shooting weddings, and it transformed our business. I mean, we came back and we had some new, I mean, the pictures that were coming out of the camera were unbelievable, and just people just couldn't throw their deposits at us fast enough, and we probably should have charged more at the time. There was a honeymoon period about a year where we just couldn't stop the bookings coming in, and it was amazing. And it went from our little video company, it just grew the company in a huge way, and it's you know, definitely put that explosion with us down to that camera, and actually going early was a huge, you know, a huge thing. So yeah, as I said before, it can just lead to unexpected opportunities, I think, and it's fun. It's just fun to use your craft and think and use new technologies in a different way, and see what occurs. Actually, a little note down the bottom too. You know, Google. I mean, it's quite a well-known fact. Google and some of these other big tech companies in Silicon Valley. My brother actually worked at Facebook a couple of years ago, and 1 out of every 5 days, I mean, 1 day a week, he was given a day off to basically work on his own ideas. That, you know, that just shows how much importance they put on free time, thinking time, and so many of actually Google's major developments came from that free time when people weren't just busy doing what they were doing, but they were able to experiment and think. And I think Gmail and a few of those big ones came out of that time from their employees. I'll just show you a clip here too. If those of you who haven't seen this, it's just an example of an incredible experiment, career this guy's taken on, doing something different. Ian Reuter. It's called Silver and Lights. Anyone seen this clip before? A couple of people? I'll just show you 3 minutes. It's about a 10-minute clip, and you should go and Google it. It's had about 1 million views on Vimeo. And for those of you who don't know Vimeo too much, it's sort of the YouTube for video professionals. So a lot of stuff's, I mean, we all know how big YouTube is, but Vimeo is sort of where most of the professional, that's where we like to post our stuff mostly. So there's a lot of channels, and you can follow people, and it's brilliant. So good for inspiration. There's just so much stuff every day coming out. But this clip in particular, I just think is fantastic, and I think as photographers, you'll really enjoy it. So let me throw this one up and talk about being different to the rest. It's pretty cool, this clip.
I'm so far down the path that I can't go back even if I wanted to. Life grants us a series of opportunities, and those opportunities come with a price. I can't stop. I've backed myself into a corner. There isn't a backup plan. You know, you're playing poker and you go all in, you're all in. We're just waiting to see how the cards unfold. I'm standing there in the dark, and I open the lens, and the room slowly fills with light. I see the most beautiful image appear right before me. It's hard to imagine I'm standing in the middle of a giant camera. When I started in photography, I was using my hands to create images, and it seemed like overnight digital came, and all of that came to an end. I didn't know it at the time, but I lost something I loved. In the absence of that feeling, it sent me on a tremendous journey. It took me back to the beginning of photography. I just got tired of it, you know? It's like everyone around me has the same cameras, they all have the same signature. I was like, I'm gonna go out and build a camera that no one has. This project isn't about making actual images. It's not about creating the world's largest camera. It's about doing what you love. If you had been searching your whole life for something you love, and you found it, what would you be willing to sacrifice? Wet plate photography has given me the ability to work with my hands again. I'm using raw materials and creating my own film and making one-of-a-kind images. There's no other feeling that can compare to that. These ones look like you've taken 1 million pictures. The basic foundation of this camera was built on the American spirit. This country is amazing. The people in it are amazing. And I believe one way or another we're all connected. This project was created to tell our story. You know, we didn't just take what people have been doing on a small scale and make it big. To make it that big, everything had to be redesigned and reworked. And that was one of the biggest challenges. 2 for 2. 2 shots, 2 photos. We're getting good, we're getting better. We poured it good. Just, we're getting better. Way better.
I'll just stop it there. But yeah, how inspiring is that? That's just, I think that it's just awesome, and does relate to, in a funny way, sort of, that's inspired me to, we're starting a new project at the moment, which I'm not going to talk too much about now, but I just think that's the sort of stuff that just makes you love what you do, I think, and just people like that that can inspire you, and yeah, a little bit unrelated to tonight, but I just think what he's been doing to get to an image is fantastic, and that process of just what I've read about, it's a collodion process with nitrate and chemicals, and it's a really old-fashioned way of getting an image, and he's gone and sort of given it birth again in a huge way, and I don't think people ever did them at this scale from what I've read. Anyway, back to what we're here tonight about. So the Motion Expressions project, one thing I'll say as well, this was an independent project, you know, it wasn't a paid Canon experiment. I mean, although Canon was really kind to lend us a couple of cameras, it was really just our project, and it was a lot of fun. And in a way, I think because we didn't have a 4K screen, and and still aren't able to show 4K, I think that was sort of a part of the reason the idea for the project came up, because we started shooting some 4K footage, looking at these massive files on the screen, and the picture's so big it wouldn't fit on the 24-inch monitor, and looking at the images and just going, wow, this is so much information here. And then it's sort of the idea to sort of continue and see what we can pull out of this footage. So a bit of a limitation at the moment, and being able to display the footage that led to the idea for the project. And also, I think going to NAB, which I mentioned, that big event in Vegas, we did see Canon actually do have these screens on the way, these 30-inch 4K monitors. Paul Stewart was there last year, and I had a look at them too, and Mika's seen them. And it's hard to describe 4K footage until you can really see it with your own eyes. And actually, if you read any reviews about 4K on a display, and I'm not talking about 4K video projection on a cinema screen. You go to the movies, you see a big image, and you're used to seeing that. That's just sort of what we're used to seeing. But when you see it small, and you see the resolution, it's just, the only way to describe it's like looking through a window to whatever you're looking at. And some of the footage they had on these screens in Vegas was amazing. There was trains and there was landscapes, and it really looked like you just climbed through this frame into the image. You just can't resolve the picture. It's sort of like looking at a retina display, but better. And I am so excited about that from a video side, which I'll talk a bit more about later. But for those of you who still might not know what 4K is, what is 4K? I just thought I'd throw up a couple of graphs. So the second one from the top, Full HD, is sort of the resolution of video that we're all used to seeing on our Blu-rays and on your nice telly at home. 4K sits above that. So, okay, it's a step up from HD, but how much more res are we talking about? The 4K, the red, and you can come down here to the green, and actually a lot of stuff we actually get televised, a lot of stuff on TV is not full HD anyway, it's 720. So you can see, that gives you a comparison of how much information we're talking about on the screen. It's just truly an amazing amount of information. So, and actually out of interest too, the 2K, that size there, which is just above HD, Skyfall, the latest James Bond film, was shot in 2K. And for those of you that saw it at the cinema, it looked pretty good, pretty amazing on the screen. And that was 2K resolution. So we're talking a massive amount of information being recorded. And in saying that, I now want to show you the clip, the project that we did, because I think everything will come from the clip. So we'll show the clip, then we're going to go through the workflow of how we got to the images, and then we'll start talking about what it means for the future. So let me dim the lights, and will Sam dim the lights, please, and we'll throw it up. So I was lucky enough to go to Africa in 2012 to film a photographic safari company, Iconic Images, and document this incredible journey through Namibia. And while I was there was a couple of moments that stood out to me where I desperately wanted to shoot stills. I was filming. One of them was in a hide at ground level, filming wild elephants bathing in the mud. And we had this solo elephant come into the middle of the mud pond and start exploding around, throwing up mud. And I'm rolling camera at a 5D Mark III, and I remember thinking at that moment, I have to have a still of this. I need a photo. This is just amazing. I'm getting the footage. And I almost buttoned off to take a photo, but I just left it. Sometimes I would try after the footage to switch it to stills mode, change my shutter speed, and try to get a still. But at a moment like that, it was impossible. It was all over, and the elephant walked away.
Abraham and I, went to Tasmania in February 2012 and to film Australia's rarest sort of parrot, which is only, less than 50 birds in the wild. If I actually saw this bird, would I take a still photo or would I take video? A camera like the 1DC, there'd be a no-brainer. I'd shoot video for sure.
I'm often shooting stuff and I'm like, I wish I could shoot stills at the same time. And sometimes when I'm shooting stills myself, I'm like, it'd be nice if I was capturing video. And the fact is, you won't have to make that choice is really the future.
It's the end of November 2012. These cameras really don't come out until January next year. And it's a real privilege that Canon have lent us the 1DC to do some testing, to do some shooting. Of course, the 4K resolution is going to be pretty exciting to shoot in. Probably what's more exciting is to see how the still frames pull from the video and what sort of quality we get in printing, because that really is true fusion. I really want to see if this is a new tool for photographers and for cinematographers around the world. So, let's go. shooting environments and test its capabilities. And the shoot actually flowed very much like a normal shoot for us, looking for great moments, capturing highlights of the day, lots of angles, lots of emotions, lots of reactions.
One thing that can be found internationally is the smile, one way of interacting with another person that really helps evoke love, connectedness with a person, and it's the best way of communicating with anybody, no matter what. It's the most international sign. And if you were to then take the smile and break it down even more, you could look to Paul Ekman's work. And Paul Ekman, he has gone in and he's studied the micro-expression. You know, is someone maybe not being as honest? Is someone being honest? Are they very sincere? And what exactly makes that sincere smile? And that's something that we would have, as an animator, have to break down to analyze a character for film. Are we getting a very genuine and sincere performance out of that character? And what's exciting about this process and the use of the technology is that you're able to capture a segment, a period of time from A to B, and then you can actually go in and analyze that section from A to B, and then find that micro-expression in that international smile, find that distinct moment in time when that sincerity actually happened.
You can see the most love, the most happiness in that frame, and then we extract the still. I think that's the revolution. Because this was such a radical new shoot, there really wasn't any workflow path. In the end, it was Adobe Premiere. We were able to bring up the preview monitor, get a really good sense of the image, and then we were able to do an export as a TIFF directly off the timeline.
The print quality that we were getting off the printer, it was essentially coming from like a JPEG quality, and not having a raw image, that was a bit of a disadvantage. However, the blacks I felt held quite well, but generally, other than some quite light adjustments, we were getting really amazing prints straight off the camera.
What was exciting with the portrait shoot is, unlike the wedding, we did actually shoot some verticals. It's really not something we've ever done, and that's one of the rules of filming, is the camera stays on a horizontal plane. So in the zoo, we're filming the animals, and also on the portrait shoot, we did experiment with some vertical frames. It can be incredibly difficult to capture that precise animal behaviour, that action that an animal's giving, and not knowing when it's going to happen. So the ability to capture and extract a still from the motion will be a huge advantage to wildlife photographers and cinematographers. We know we're not shooting raw. We may see raw in the next generation of DSLRs, so it does mean you do need to have things pretty spot on, like exposure, white balance in camera. The 1DC shoots 1 gigabyte of data per 15 seconds. 4 minutes on a 16 gig card is just hard to get your head around.
You are going to need a lot more storage and a lot more hard drives. They are coming down in price. So, you look at how much a 64 gig was 3 years ago, it would have been ridiculous. Now you can pick them up so cheap, and that's just progress for you.
I've been a portrait photographer for 23 years, and I specialise in contemporary glamour portraiture. Decided to trial the 1DC 4K camera, my style. So to take the 1DC motion capture into a portrait round and photograph at natural light, see if it could capture motion better than my stills camera. Okay, one more go. Nice, chin, forward and down. Don't throw your head back. Perfect, and go. Nice.
I was operating, but Sue Bryce was leading the shoot. She was directing the model. How the camera was positioned, how it was held, whether shooting landscape or portrait. Trying to use the camera in video mode, but the way a photographer might use it.
I've been capturing a lot of my portraiture in motion since I've been working with the 5D Mark II and the 5D Mark III. So I've really been waiting for the quality of the motion to catch up to what I've been using it for, and I really saw that today. It's amazing amount of information for a white dress. I cannot believe that it's captured that. See, I've missed the hand here, and I don't like the hand here.
We were finding motion blur on some of the images. It's not perfect, but there were many usable shots, as long as our focus was in check.
Yeah, just the fact that you have 10 options and I have 1. It's incredible.
So after the completion of the shooting and the printing, we thought the real test would be to show these 4K still prints to some of our industry's leading image professionals and see what they thought. It's been a pretty exciting day here in Sun Studios in Sydney, Australia, where we've had different photographers from different genres come in and have a look at the 1DC stills that have been taken from the 4K footage.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. The resolution was amazing. From the photos I've seen, there's no difference between that and what I'm doing.
Oh, dude. I don't even know what to think about it yet. I don't know whether to be scared or whether to be really excited.
It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of freaked me out a little bit. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the print results, I mean, it speaks for itself really. It's all in there and it's capturing, it's really quite amazing.
The results we have achieved through the 1DC have blown my expectations out of the water. I thought we'd get some great images. They're above and beyond. And I think the people who have come in today to see them, some of them were probably a little bit skeptical coming in to see some video stills. I think they've walked away completely shocked and in awe of the quality that this has captured.
Yeah, I had a look at the stills and they're very impressive. You've got amazing quality.
Photographers will be always the harshest critics of the printed image. That's their profession. So to impress a photographer, I think was the seal of approval to me. And we did that today.
But the concept of shooting 4K in camera is so appealing to me. I don't like external boxes. And if you can shoot video and take stills from it, you're getting 24 frames per second and you're not going to miss anything.
My first impression is that if you're just going to shoot video and just pull a still out, it's almost like cheating. The other side of it is that, yeah, you don't always capture the perfect moment, or, you know, it may be a great moment, but there actually was one frame before, an even better one. Yeah, it's a really interesting dilemma as a photographer. Yeah, thinking about how does that make me any less of a photographer because I'm not actually capturing the moment, I'm just capturing all these series of moments and just picking out my favourite.
What's always interested me is what constitutes a photo, and does it matter how the photographer or image maker got to that final photo?
I don't think it matters at all. I shoot time-lapse a fair bit and I'm often have 4, 5, 6 cameras rolling at different spots at the same time just because I'm up next to them. Sometimes I've actually set them up in safe areas and gone to bed and then picked them up in the morning, put them into the computer and gone, holy cow, that's brilliant. And I was fast asleep when I took that. I don't care, it's mine.
It's like saying, am I a better photographer because I use a medium format camera? No. Am I a worse photographer because I grab stills off film? No. It's still image making, it's still lighting, it's still composing, it's still all that stuff.
We do forget that stills from motion is actually not a new concept. I love some of the photojournalistic books I've got, like the Pulitzer Prize winning moments and the greatest news photos of the 20th century. And some of the images in these books are, when you read the byline, still images sequence taken from 35mm motion picture footage. When the moment's been captured, it doesn't really matter how it's been captured.
At the end of the day, what we do, and in our niche field of weddings, is more people and relationship orientated than anything else. Yes, we need to know all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's telling a story, and a story is everything.
The thing would be like, oh my God, am I out of a job? I'm a stills guy, you know, I'm gone, I'm dead, you know, hey, I'm old, look, I've got grey hair. But no, I think, you know, you've just got to go with the times.
If you look at where we started in digital, that was scary back then because that was a different world. And I think it's almost to the same degree in what we're seeing with this camera now. It's throwing a completely different spin at how we look at things.
And what's amazing about the technology is that as it's increased, it's allowed us to capture more of that honest reality. And by capturing honesty, you're able to really evoke the emotion that photography and or video is portraying.
I don't think anybody should be threatened the fact that you can do mixed media, and we all know that it's going to get better and better and better. I think the ability to be able to do both at the same time is fantastic for both stills guys and video guys.
Running this experimental project, extracting the stills, the images speak for themselves, and I think that it is an amazing new tool for image professionals to capture the world. Thanks, guys. Whoop. Thank you. Yeah, it was it's a lot of fun. We actually got the clip out on Christmas Day, and I think I stayed in the studio till about 5 a.m. in the morning, just finishing the edit, and it was fun. It was fun actually seeing it all go up, and all the debate it sparked. It was amazing how much good and bad debate it created online. It went pretty nuts for a few weeks, and obviously, yeah, everyone seemed to have an opinion about it. But I like what Ryan said. I think the best way to look at this is look at where we were when digital first came about, and then if you were shooting film back then, and you looked at a 1 megapixel camera with its limitations, and the quality was nowhere near what you're doing then, why would you bother? But it just progressed, and it progressed to a point, and everyone probably had their own tipping point when they did go to digital, and some people still shoot film, and now that can be used. You know, film's obviously still got its qualities, and I know some people who use that as part of a unique selling point of their business, to shoot on film, and the romance and the look that it can still give you. So that's, I think, just things to keep in mind when looking at this with I guess, an open mind, and probably, I guess, most of you come here because you want to check it out. So I think it's exciting, and I think we're just seeing the beginnings of it. That's what I think. I think it's just not going to go away, and it's just going to progress and again be just a different way to get to the image. A few of the shots from the film. What I'll do, I'll take you through the workflow because people are interested to see how we got the stills out of the footage, but it's not going to take long because it's pretty simple. And I don't think that's the point of tonight. I think tonight is really exploring what this is, what could it mean for you. So a few of the shots here. And I just can't wait to get a 4K screen and start showing the footage as well from a footage point of view. Because personally, you know, I don't call myself a photographer. You know, I'm a cinematographer, and I love the moving image, and that's where I'm just going to continue to push myself and learn. And there's so much more I want to do in that field. This has been really an experimental project for me. I'm not, you know, selling photography, and it's not really going to be it's not going to become part of my business tomorrow. But like with anyone, you never say never. Who knows? 5 years from now, maybe it will. Now, also for some of you in the break, please come and have a look at the prints and have a look at the album as well. I think the album's really interesting. I think what the film doesn't get across, even though it's great, and I love all the guys that came in, and Ryan gave up their time to come in, and the others to talk and have a look at the prints. You really should have a look at them and see them with your own eyes. That's the real ultimate test. Okay, just a little bit about the sensor, but we don't need to sort of linger on this. So I want to show you the workflow. So what I'm going to do now, and you can see there actually the 4K, the red rectangle is how much of the image out of the full sensor that we're actually capturing in 4K mode. So it's the actual size of 4096 by 2160 is at an 8.8 megapixel motion JPEG. That's what we're capturing. It's a motion JPEG. It's not RAW, as we said in the film. And from a video side, the way we've been forced to shoot over the last few years is actually in camera, get our exposure and white balance spot on, because there's quite high compression when you shoot video with the Mark II and the other cameras, and really we haven't had this raw ability to, you know, if it's several stops, you know, under or over, to recover and to change white balance easily. You really need to nail it in camera, and that's just the way we've been trained to shoot, and it's a good way, I guess, to shoot manual and shoot manual Kelvin and all those things. And you know, it blows my mind when I take the odd photo, and you know, only in the last year sort of started playing around with Lightroom, and the ability to manipulate the image is massive, and it's fantastic. So you are limited in that space. To get usable stills, the footage has to be looking great. But that's just to give you an idea of the sensor size. And a couple more things about the actual 4K resolution. As I said, 8.8 megapixels and huge amounts of data required. But again, I just think we look back at where we were with the 5D Mark II and other cameras when we started shooting video with that. The 8 gig cards were really expensive still. People were shooting on 2 gig cards, 4 gig cards. People thought you couldn't shoot a whole wedding. He couldn't shoot really long footage with his, you know, the amount of cards he'd need. So it's just evolution. The 1 gig, the 128 gig cards will become cheaper and cheaper. So it's just evolves that way. So let me just open up Premiere. So Premiere, we've tried a few different ways to pull stills, and Dean Bentic from Enlighten Photography, a good mate of mine, the two of us were sort of experimenting with how to pull the stills. We tried a few different ways, tried exporting from QuickTime and tried Final Cut and a few other ways. The best way that we found, the simplest way, and I'm sure there'll be more tools and software in the future to sort of facilitate stills from motion. But for really, it was just the Premiere CS6 that we use. So I'll just quickly give you a little rundown. This actually comes for those of you who have the Master Collection suite. If some of you have that, Premiere's in there if you've never actually played around with it. And Premiere is fantastic. The fact that you can mix media and you can actually have different file sizes, different resolution videos on the timeline at the same time. So simply brought in the footage. We created a 4K project, which when you open up Premiere, you've got different settings, didn't come up then, but selected 4K, 24 frames. At the moment, the 1DC shoots 24 only in 4K, but 25 is coming pretty soon. We open up our bin, got some footage from the zoo and the wedding. Let's go to the wedding shoot. So just simply drag it down to this timeline. In editing, you've always got any editing program has a timeline where you just start to assemble clips in order, and you can layer them and these things. But really, in this case, all we need to do is just drop it in and get the picture up on the screen. I'm just scrubbing through the footage here. The 4K footage is actually playing back in RAW in Premiere. Premiere is pretty amazing. One really nice feature is over here on the right, where the actually, Sam, do you mind to kill that light there for me? Yeah, thanks. That's better. What's really nice about the playback is you can actually adjust the playback resolution, and because we've got, you saw that 4K versus HD comparison, even by bringing the quality, the playback quality to an 1/8 here, you've got full resolution playback, which this wouldn't handle, and you've got 1/8, 16th. 1/8 seems to work pretty well, and it just means we can really work with the footage, play it back, and when you pause it, it's actually got a feature for the resolution you see when you pause, which is full resolution, so it's nice. We can actually see the detail here. And that was I guess in the clip, that was the fun part. The fact we can just scrub through and we've got all these frames to choose from, as long as our focus is in. And really, one thing I'll get to in a minute as well is I think the few people, we shoot weddings, we have couples that come in and they see their films, and a few of them have seen the clip, it's on our blog. A few people have been interested, we've had some of the prints kicking around the studio. And when I've just sat down and showed someone this, because for years people have said to me, oh, can't you just pull photos out of the video? Even back when we were shooting standard definition, and you try to explain to people, well, the quality's not there, there's nothing you just get garbage. Now we're getting to a point where, well, actually you can, if the footage is clean, you can actually pull some usable stills out. And people loved the concept of it. Just from a marketing point of view, I think it could be something to be looked at, because I look at a business like a baby portrait business where you're filming kids, you're photographing kids on a floor and they're moving around. I think there's different applications probably people haven't thought of yet where you could use this type of, this way of capturing an image. And really, like in our album here, when you actually look at it, you'll see there's detail shots, there's plenty of things in there that you would not shoot motion for to pull a still. Why would you film in a wedding details of a dress or, still life objects? Why would you create all this data then to go in and pull out an 8.5 megapixel JPEG? This just doesn't make sense. There's moments like this where you may decide to roll the camera and capture some footage for specific moments, for maybe a portrait shoot, children photography. That's where I think, from a photographer's point of view, where it may be useful. Because I think we've got to look at it from both ways. You've got videographers, people who are shooting film, their point of view, and then if you've got most of you here, photographers, how you use this. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight and on the panel. So we'll get onto that a bit more later on. But I'm just telling you just the experience I've had with couples that I've shown this to. They just love the idea of it. It's fantastic. You know, I can choose the shot, and you know, the bride, she might like, is it this shot here? Just the way she looks in a certain frame. I think we used this example before, where her neck's sort of more elongated, and finding that specific shot. There was another point, this fellow here, that he wouldn't close his eyes very often when he kissed, and there was another couple of shots we had, and he just, it was a bit odd, he'd just have his eyes open all the time. But he blinked in a couple of frames, and we pulled a couple of stills out of those 2 frames where he blinked, and I thought that was pretty cool. So, but anyway, that's just, so you might go, yep. And of course, look, yes, I know you can with most top DSLRs these days. You can shoot 8, 10, 12, 14. The 1DX does 12 and 14 frames per second. You go, well, why don't you just fire off a burst of frames? And you've got RAW, and you know, why would you bother with this? Well, one big thing straight away is the sound. I mean, it's just silent. So where you may burst off a rapid fire on something like this, the situations where you wouldn't want that explosion of the shutter. So plus you are getting 24 or 25 frames rather than 8 or 14, and buffering. It can just continuously roll the footage. So anyway, getting sidetracked here. Let's get back to the frame. So say we decide that's the frame we want, right there. And it's probably better examples actually too when the thing's moving, and we actually shot a lot on a glide cam moving around. You simply go to File, Export, Media, or Control M. We'll bring up wherever our cursor was on the timeline, that's the frame we're on. And I think too, like, one of the criticisms is, like, God, you can have so many thousands of photos to pick from. You know, it's bad enough shooting 2,000 photos or 5,000 photos on a wedding. Why would you want 80,000 images or 200,000 frames? I don't know, you need 24 times. Every 10 seconds you're going to get 240 images. Again, I think its use is not going to be all the time, and it could be specific moments. And Dean and I have talked about it, and we'll talk about it a bit later on the panel, when it could be used. And again, because you can play back the video, and you can scrub through quite quickly, you can narrow it down and decide. And the art of the photographer deciding that decisive moment is happening obviously on the day, but then also you're narrowing it down further at a second stage. So you're still deciding which frame you want, what translates the best moment in your eye, and that eye for that perfect frame is still there. It's just happening at a different point in time. Now I've saved this, but basically the format when you first bring up this window for the first time, it's mostly video export options, but down here you've got TIFF. So we select TIFF, and because the footage on the timeline is at this 4K resolution, that's where it's at. And I've just ticked a couple of maximize at render maximum quality, and then export. It's that simple. Other nice things later, I think down the track, when I was talking about features that could be added to software like this to enhance this process, is that you could just add keyframes, like adding markers. You just add a series of markers to all these clips, and then just in one go batch export all the frames you want. Let's have a look at our image. Yeah, so, and actually a very similar shot is printed here, so to get an actual better understanding of how it looks on the page. And actually at this point, I might just ask Dean, because again, stills is not my background, and that's why it was interesting to get photographers along, and maybe Dean, do you want to just mention a couple of things about the image that we achieved?
We have a good look here. These are just prints that were pulled from various shoots and the zoo and everything like
that. We haven't done a lot to them. They're pretty much, there's no sharpening added, there's no very little colour adjustment, they're pretty much like straight out. The major thing, I think I mentioned in the clip, but the major thing that sort of I noticed is that you couldn't do much with it. I suppose I'm used to using raw files, but there was the highlight detail. You'll see the fellow's hat here, and his collar here. The highlight detail is you can't really bring back anything really from that. But the blacks seem to be really good. You could light them up a little bit and not get too much noise and so on. And then of course he's used to shooting on pretty good exposure. Lucky to have a bit of latitude there, but the focus was the main thing. Looking through the video, just wanted to get that focus right, because if it wasn't there, it seems to be more critical, doesn't it? The videos and stills, even though you're the same f-stop. But look, yeah, and the blur's got a really bit of a different type of blur look to it as well. So I know overall it come out pretty good. But first half a dozen pages here are actually sort of stills from the video, and then yeah, these ones here, they're pretty impressive when you have a close look. So yeah, have a look there. Cool.
Thanks, team. I might just flick the lights again. I'll just show you. This is another example, I think, of. It's a really cool example. I just set the tripod up next to me, and I'm standing next to the tripod. I just set up the frame, and now, without looking through the cameras, chatting to Kelly and James here, and yeah, I don't have experience shooting portrait shoots. I don't, I'm sort of spoiled in a way, I guess, when I shoot weddings. I have great photographers that are directing the shoot, making things happen, and we just shoot around and just shoot candid stuff. So it's a little bit different for me to actually then direct a couple and get what I want out of them. But I knew I wanted smiles. I thought smiles always work. So just chatting away, and actually the camera's now not even in my hand. It's just on a tripod. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was quite different. And we're just having a conversation. I'm just trying to make them laugh. And the focus was there, and it was quite a windy day. So I guess looking at this, deciding which frame, and with her hair blowing, you could, there's just so many options here. And that print too of James is just, there's the real twinkle in his eye in that exact frame. Like there's several frames either side of it, but when we were going through to actually print that or grab that actual still, I think that is my favourite image of him, and I had so many to choose from. So we obviously don't have to look at a whole bunch of them with her mouth shut, but when she actually smiles nicely, she's a close-up of Kelly, and let me just scrub along. So I think that's a better example of, let's see here, to get them both looking their best. He's looking good. She's looking good here. And you might go that one. So I think that's just a good example to actually show how you can scrub through and get that precise shot. And I just think there's really nice, it just, everyone's always trying to find something different to sell yourself and sell your business and sell your craft, to have that unique selling point. I think that could be a real untapped feature or addition to have in your business. So we'll whack the lights back on, guys. Thanks, guys. So, yep, talked about the workflow. And then, as Dean was saying, as soon as you've got an image, then it's an image. It is a JPEG. You don't have that raw ability. So we talked about that. That's a big, a bit of a downer. But again, we're looking at the beginning. So remember when digital came out, I think it's just the start. Where is this going to be in 5 years' time? When you can pull out every still and it's raw, I think it's fantastic. Yep. Oh, there's more. And the thing is, this technology and all the other, there's going to be more and more camera manufacturers, not just Canon, but I think it's great because they're going to push each other and everyone's going to benefit from this. So I think it's a great thing that we've got. So yeah, I call it pros and limitations, not pros and cons, but pros and cons. We talked about this before. Yeah, limitations. Big amounts of data required. We know that. We know it's going to get cheaper and cheaper to do. There's still motion blur. We're not getting perfect frames every frame, especially when it's high. And I think there's going to be certain certain types of shooting it wouldn't be useful for at this point, like motocross and anything with massive, because even when you shoot at really high shutter speeds, and that's the thing too, when I shoot video, I'm shooting at most of my things at 50th of a second. If I'm shooting at 25 frames per second, the sort of rule of thumb is that you just double your shutter speed, whatever your frame rate is. So if you're shooting 25, which is a standard, you sort of optimum shutter speed to give that sort of cinematic, appealing look of footage is double to 50. If you shoot at 800 shutter speed, which a lot of people who pick up a 5D for the first time and start shooting some video, you need to pump your shutter speed right up. I love to use ND filters because I really don't like to pump my shutter speed up to really high levels because the footage, sorry I don't have an example here, but the footage gets a real staccato look. I call it the Saving Private Ryan beach scene look, you know, that with the dirt flying, everything's pin sharp and everything's very jittery and high energy. And they use that in action films a lot, that high shutter speed look. But for most of the time, it's not something that you want. So, and look, the experimenting we've done as well, even though you're shooting at 1,000 shutter speed, it's an electronic, because you're shooting video, you're not actually firing the shutter, it's an electronic equivalent. So you're still getting motion blur. I've tried it at thousands and you can still get motion blur between frames. So it's not going to be useful for every type of shooting. But I have seen some good examples too where people have shot some reasonably fast stuff like the dress and other times, and you're getting every fourth or fifth frame, you're getting a nice sharp image. So you may get less frames, but there's still frames to use. It's quite a narrow frame as well. If you look at actually some of these, the one of the couple, Kelly and James, it's quite a narrow, that's the aspect you get with the 1DC shooting in 4K. And yeah, so it's different, it's a different frame that you're used to. So just composing your image in that frame is going to be something to get used to. We talked about it's not RAW, it's a motion JPEG. And yeah, we tried some vertical video, that was interesting, and there's nothing wrong with it. If your headspace is stills and you're going out just to shoot stills and you don't care about the footage, you're just using the footage to get to an image, then sure, why not shoot vertical video? For us, the stills were sort of the byproduct or the additional thing we were getting, but filming was my priority. So I think it really depends on what angle you're coming in at. And of course the pros is, it's really the first DSLR in the world that offers true fusion. To me too, whenever I've seen the last few years fusion projects, and I've seen some great work, but to me it's something, there's nothing new about video and stills, because stills have been put in video for a long time. I think now though we're really starting to see a blur, and probably the wrong word, blur, but the thing's crossing over. And it's silent. Other uses for this too could possibly be, I've been on a few film sets where someone will be running around taking stills of the production in a blimp, big silent blimp, which is pretty cumbersome and heavy. To be able to shoot footage and pull the stills out of a silent video record, there's another possible use. And the big one, the scary one, I guess where the fear of the title comes in, is guys like me shooting motion, being able to just pull stills. But I really think the headspace is very, very different. That's one thing I'll just say. I think just going out to acquire images, still images, is just so different to constructing a film, the sort of coverage you need to get, the cutaways, the approach. It's not the answer for everything, for sure. And as I said before, I think it's a new tool, an exciting tool in the repertoire of ways of capturing image. Look at time-lapse photography, and I was looking at Sam with that, out there testing their the flash units, and there's so many, where is Sam? What was the unit you were trying out yesterday in the studio? You were photographing the fan, those big. No, you were using that lighting system, the flash. Yeah. So I mean, it's just, and as I mentioned before, I think it could be a smart way to get a new, unique selling point for your business. I think it could be something that could be more explored. Okay, so I did mention briefly the headspace. It's very different approaching a shoot from a stills or motion point of view. I mentioned the staccato look. I have found shooting 100, 200, most of these frames are shot at 200 shutter speed. So I find going to 100 or 200 doesn't affect the staccato, that staccato look I talked about. You sort of get away at 100 or 200, but anything more than that starts to look quite artificial. So for me, from my point of view, I don't want the footage to look, I don't want a bride looking too, you know, too much energy and anger in the footage. And yeah, I think thinking about where it could be used specifically, that's the key, I think. I think I'm getting towards the end. I'll just talk about, just personally, how did it affect our business doing this? I mentioned at the start, doing something a little bit different, experimenting, seeing where it'll take us. Just personally, it was a fantastic project to do. It was a lot of fun. It was something just to get out and actually do. Just personally, it was a lot of fun. The clip had 100,000 views in 11 days online. All of tech blog, everyone's always looking for something new content, fresh content. The blogs ate it up. We had Gizmodo and a lot of those big blogs, once they jumped on it, all the other blogs steal off each other, and it was just went everywhere. So it was a lot of fun seeing all that happen. And it had the right mix of buzzwords like 4K and stills from footage, and having a nice piece was obviously handy. And I think also too, just forgetting about the 4K stills for a second, just learning a bit more about how to film and produce clips, and learning a bit about audio. The RØDE guys are here if you want to talk to them about that tonight. I think it's a great way to actually, you know, vlog, you know, do video blogs, starting to, I know Dean started to capture a bit about his business. Being able to learn this craft to actually capture what you do and show your processes, show your passion. Film, I don't think there's nothing better than using footage and clips to sell yourself, because when people meet you, they come into your studio, they meet you, and they get your passion, they understand your personality, and that's a big part of it. You know, a website and your work obviously is very important, but I think, you know, producing your own clips or knowing how to do them in a smart way, they don't have to be Hollywood productions, but they can look clean and great, and all of you have the lenses and the cameras to do it. It's just learning how to actually produce clips. So that, I think, is something really to look at. And I've tried to learn how to take better stills, just personally as well. So, yep. So the clip went crazy online, which is great. Big exposure. And the results for us, for our business personally, was massive exposure all around the world. Made so many more connections online, and our name got out there, which is what it's all about. We've all got to sell ourselves, haven't we? It's part of running a business. And it's led to several speaking engagements. It's definitely brought in more business, unrelated. And I think it's fantastic when couples come in, and majority of our work is weddings. But when couples come in, to show them a passion project or something on the side that's nothing relating to weddings is great. I think couples love that, and they love to see that you're doing other projects and other things. It just makes you more interesting as a person, and they love the passion. And I had a few couples come in, and I've shown some Africa footage, or I've shown them this project, and because I've asked them if they've seen our wedding films online, so they come in and I show them some other stuff, show them some stuff in edit, talk about upcoming projects. They love it, and then they book. And we haven't even watched a wedding film. So I think it's a good thing to have other creative outlets. And yeah, social networks, and it's led on to paid projects. So it's been a big success. Whether I go on and do stills from footage right now or in the future, just the actual project was great fun, and from a business point of view, it was great. So it doesn't always have to be about the immediate dollars. You know, I'm going to spend all this time on something, and then is it going to have a return? You know, there can be other ways it can come around to that later. And for me personally, people ask me, so what are you doing with the 1DC? What are you shooting? For now, I guess because video is my thing, I can't show couples yet, probably pretty soon, how amazing the 4K footage looks. So we'll be able to soon, and as soon as I can buy myself a reasonably priced screen, didn't really want to spend $25,000 on a TV, they are going to come down, and when I can show it, I know I can sell it. I've got to be able to show a workflow. I've got to be able to say to a couple, I can shoot it in 4K, you know, this is the playback device, this is the way I'm going to give you the file, and this is the TV you need. Until that's all becomes a bit more reasonable, which will happen, I've got to wait a little bit. But why not start shooting now? Because I will have, by the time those things roll out, I'll have some great showreel pieces, content. There's no, why wait until it's all there and go, God, I've got to start shooting something. This is Santorini. Got an amazing wedding in Santorini in July, so we're going to go full on and do the 1DC multi-cam shoot. Got to get a few more cards before then. Because I just know, obviously, visually, it's an exciting place to go. It's going to look stunning. And Africa, got 3 exciting trips in Africa coming up, so I'm never going to go away and do a documentary project and shoot anything less than 4K again. There's no way. I mean, why would I? It's just creating stock as well. I think that's really important for me. To shoot in 4K is going to create all this stock footage that I have, and stock libraries are going to now, you know, they're going to start from scratch a little, in a little way. So can't wait to go back to Africa and do more projects there. And the Arctic is in, which I think Peter's going to come on, Peter Eastway, who's here tonight, is going to come on this trip. I know he's been to the frozen worlds many times, but it's going to be awesome to be there with him, and I'll be running around with some... Okay. So yeah, super excited about all this fun stuff, and really these, what's helped these projects come along is things like this project. So, and it's really true, what you focus on, I think, is what comes to you. It's funny, I mentioned that doco stuff I did years ago. I sort of didn't touch it for a long time, just focused on weddings. Didn't even talk about that wildlife, that stuff I really love to do. I didn't talk about it because I was a bit sad I wasn't doing it, so I didn't even talk about it. And once I started talking about it, and even Jay, I was one of the first people I started talking about things again, and then once it's on your mind and you're talking about what you want to do, you know, the whole secret, I don't really believe in The Secret, that book, The Secret, from a sort of mystical sort of way. I believe in it in a practical sense, that if it's on your mind and you speak it, it'll come to you, because other people will, it's just the way the world works. People mention other people, oh, he's the guy who does that stuff, and it just sort of evolves. So I think my goal this year is to keep focusing on what I want to do as much as I can, and talking about it and telling people this is what I'm doing, and hopefully it'll just keep coming. So it's exciting. Now, what's the future for this stuff? And these are my sort of, these are my guesses. This is what I think. You can disagree with me if you want. But definitely I think the line between motion and stills capture is just going to become more and more blurred, and images are going to be captured from both areas more and more. It's just going to become... And it's interesting to see some of the press releases from Canon and some of the write-ups. The stills from motion is being mentioned a few times. I don't know if our clips had something to do with that, but just the conversation is starting. And if the conversation is there, and if people want something, if they want a feature, then more R&D will be put into that. So it's up to us, really. Obviously, RAW is going to just, I think, become universal. So the images look amazing, and I know people go, oh, it's only a JPEG. If it's shot well, JPEGs are, you know, can be fantastic. It's just about the raw ability that you don't have. But I'm telling you, the footage looks amazing as well. And I think image professionals, who we all are, will become more skilled in both areas. And I need to learn more about stills. I really need to, you know thy enemy. I've got to learn more about it if I'm going to understand it. And I think it helps both sides of shooting. And as Philip Blue mentioned in there's going to be more demand. And I mean, from weddings, and if you think about brides today, I'm probably, you know, I'm 30. I'm probably the average age of a bride. Maybe a bit slightly younger, but we grew up in the 80s. We grew up with TV and movies, and I think that's the way the world is heading, just the digitalness of everything. I still think prints will always be, in 100 years' time, there will be a print on the wall printed on some beautiful art paper. That's still going to be there. But I think there's going to be more digital delivery methods we haven't even thought of yet. So it's just going to keep coming. And what's not going to change, in my opinion, is the appreciation for great work. Great work, just because you've got a great camera, we all know, it doesn't mean you're going to take great images. And what I mentioned, I think people's love of tactile prints will still be there in 100 years' time. And yet, bad shooting can still look bad, And yeah, the art of the storytelling, and like what Ryan mentioned, we could have cut half the film with Ryan's. He said so much great stuff in his talk, his interview. But it's about how you approach your subjects, and there's so much to the art of photography that isn't just about the camera. And being a storyteller, which you do in stills and you do in motion. They're just different ways of doing it. So all that is going to remain. And just like digital, a lot of people were very scared that digital would mean everyone can do what they do, and back when it was film and processing, and no one could do that stuff. But, you know, the people who were shooting film back then and who were great at it are still doing great work with digital. So if this comes along and gives more people the ability to pull stills, the great image makers are still going to be making great images. I think it's going to be the same thing. I don't know how we're going for time. I was just going to finish up with one clip from a guy called Alex Henry. Forgive me if you've seen the clip already, but I think it's fantastic, and it was made 3 years ago, and I can't believe it's still relevant, and I can't find anything better online at the moment to show you. But this guy's a bit of a visionary American guy, and he's been doing work with motion images, and hopefully in a year's time I'll be giving a talk somewhere and showing some of the motion prints I want to do. And what I'm talking about now, what is motion photography? It's the Harry Potter scenario. You know, the Harry Potter portraits that are moving on the wall? I think that is something, when people look at this and they go, okay, well, it's cool, it's not for me, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I think no one could deny that a moving photograph in a frame, and I want to see, you know, shooting a portrait, imagine that portrait there, and I know how good that 4K screen would look. Mounting that motion portrait in a traditional way, so taking the 4K screen, mounting it in matte, in a timber frame, disguising all the technology, get all the technology out of it, and having that frame on the wall. And the motion has to be subtle, and Alex, I mean, he says it perfectly in the clip I'm going to show you, but very subtle movement, but it is a living portrait or a living landscape. Instead of having a beautiful Peter Eastway print on the wall, you could have the print, but you could also have the same image, but the stream's running, bubbling brook, there's like clouds moving, and it's just even more engaging. But it's subtle. From a distance, it's a photo, and then you go, hang on, that's real. And until you see how good that image can look on these screens, I can't really convince you, but once you see it, it's like, wow, this is a window. So I think that is exciting. And I look at, like, Dean, in 10 years' time, will he have prints that are in lightened frames that he could sell to his couples? And that beautiful moment there's actually in the back of that book, there's a lot of Dean's photos taken traditional way that he shot in New Zealand, and there's amazing views of these mountains, and you've got the couple standing there on a hilltop. If you'd actually rolled 3 or 4 minutes or 10 minutes of 4K video of that same moment, with that light, and we're able to frame that in a frame, I think it would be absolutely stunning. And everyone can't deny that's a new medium. That's in between. It's not footage. It's not a series of, I mean, film is a series, it's a montage. It's a series of clips to tell a story. A photograph is a singularity image. This is more a photograph than a film, because it's a moving photo. And I think all the skills photographers have in lighting and composition there's probably more skills there. There's probably more for us video guys to learn, really, about composing a single image than the other way around. That's what I'm really excited about. And I think in the next few months we should be able to have a working sample of it as soon as we can get one of these Canon screens to deck to actually get the footage playing on. So I am super excited about that. I can't wait to start, and that'll be something people want to come and see, I think. And also the ability to change the frame. I was just mentioning with Dean's, if Dean had a few prints on the wall in the future, those images could be changed very easily. Just a touch of a button somewhere, you can actually change your photograph. And it's not the corny digital picture frame we've seen, like the really bad picture frames you've seen that are just, you know, there's no quality and it's just a bit of a gimmick. We're talking about something completely different. So the quality has to be there for it to work. It has to just be a living photograph, and that's what it looks like. So let me play this clip, and I think I'm wrapping up after that, and we'll have a break and get back to the panel.
Hey, this is Alex Henry, and we are in beautiful Malibu, California, shooting triathlete Chris Lieto for a Living magazine cover and spread for Outside Magazine. So stay with us, because not only are we shooting a print edition of the magazine, we're also doing a living version to give you guys a glimpse of what the magazines of the future might look like.
So what's this going to look like when we're done? We've all seen sci-fi movies where magazines and newspapers have the pictures moving right on the page. That's what we're doing here. We're making moving photographs called living art for that purpose.
I really wanted to use motion to show the drama here, and there's really a lot of drama in Chris's story.
We are shooting Chris Lieto, a three-time Ironman champion and former U.S. national Ironman champion. He's one of the top athletes in Ironman, a swim, bike, run event. He's clearly the best cyclist in the race, but struggles to maintain his lead in the run. Last year, he lost a 5-minute lead over rival Craig Alexander to come in second place with only 2 seconds left in the race. That's drama.
So to show this, we've got a really long dolly track to show Chris in a run. We're going to use slow motion and fast zooms to really get inside Chris's head.
No way we're going to keep up with this runner guy. But you'll see in the end, 2 grips on 1 dolly trying to run, pushing a 600-pound dolly and keep up with a professional track star. We'll do our best. You guys ready? You guys ready? You ready, man? Movies, and they open the newspapers and the pictures are alive inside the newspapers. This is kind of a reality version of that.
Now this is going to live online, but it turns out that the technology that's going to bring this to your doorstep is not that far off at all.
Video is being integrated into our world more and more, like photography before it. Right now, there are working prototypes that will allow this, and they are very cool. Here are 2, OLED and e-ink. In addition to being able to create ultra-thin displays with low power demands, these technologies can give us screens that are flexible. We are looking at technologies that can help usher in the next evolution of print. In the next few years, we will see mainstream technologies that could bring flexible video everywhere, including our newsstands.
I see a future where motion is integrated into every aspect of our lives, just as photography is today. When we can walk up to a newsstand, for a couple of dollars, hold a piece of living art in our hands. This could be the evolution of print.
And that's the end of my presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that's been a bit of inspiration. And thank you for Sun Studios for putting on tonight as well. Forgot to mention you before. Love Sun. And I'll put you back to Kylie. Thank you very much, guys.